Hello, friends. My name is Vanessa Van Edwards, and today I'm going to talk to you about charisma. I've always been fascinated by the topic of charisma, and little did I know that it would become a lifelong career passion. I run Science of People. We are a human behavior research lab, and my goal is to study the hidden forces that drive our behavior. So, I realized that charisma was this very interesting little trait when we were doing a study, and we found that many people had a hard time defining charisma. They could very quickly think of the most charismatic person in their life. They thought, oh, my boss, my friend, my partner. But when we asked them, what is charisma? This is when they had a really hard time defining it. And we realized that charisma is this interesting trait that you know the moment you see it, but you have a really hard time defining it. So we wanted to know what actually makes someone charismatic. Researchers from Harvard Business School found that there are two very important traits that we use to judge someone when we first meet them. They're warmth and competence. Now, what's interesting about these two traits is there's often an imbalance in them. There are people who are very high in competence. They're seen as smart and powerful and capable, but not always a good team player, not always collaborative. There are also folks that are very high in warmth, seen as friendly and friendly and warm and trustworthy, but not always powerful and dependable. The sweet spot seems to be the perfect balance of warmth and competence. Very highly charismatic people rank off the charts in friendliness and trust, but they're also seen as very powerful, as very capable and dependable. And so what I want to focus on today is how you can hit that sweet spot in your presentations, in your meetings, of being both open and trustworthy, but also powerful and capable. And the question is, how do we do that? How do we break that down? Well, there's two ways that we are constantly signaling our warmth and competence. The first is with our words, our verbal power, and the second was with our nonverbal. So let's start off with our verbal power. I love this study that I'm going to talk about. So this is a study that was done by Brian Wansink, and he brought participants into his lab and he blindfolded them and turned off the lights. Never a good thing if you're in an experiment. And then he handed them a bowl of strawberry yogurt, and he asked them to rate this yogurt on its strawberry flavor. 59% of participants said the yogurt had a nice strawberry flavor. The trick was the yogurt was actually chocolate. This is mind-blowing, right? Strawberry and chocolate taste nothing alike. But what happened was Brian Wansink told the participants, you're about to eat strawberry. The brain heard strawberry and then tasted strawberry. This is the first of many studies that indicate a powerful psychological effect called priming. So priming is something that I don't think we think enough about in our presentations and in our first impressions. Priming is using our words, colors, and images to influence and shape someone's behavior, expectations, and actions. And I believe that we can use this for good. Let me zoom in for a second on a microscopic way that we miss priming all the time. I used to send emails like this all the time. Totally miss priming. We're all set for the meeting next week. I'll prepare an overview and sample proposal for you, then we can review them. Let me know if you have any questions. No emotions at all. This is very, very sterile. Versus this has almost the same word count, but pay attention to some of the priming cues. I'm looking forward to collaborating next week. I'll prepare a goal worksheet and overview of desired outcomes for both of us. Then we can work through everything together. Happy to answer any questions. You notice that these say the same thing, but they feel totally different. What research has shown is that when you use a word like collaborate, people are then more likely to tap into their collaborative resources and be more collaborative. So what I want us to think about is not throwing away our words, and we are doing this constantly. Think about how many times a day you open your calendar, or how many times you've sent calendar invites. I don't know about you, but I open my calendar at least 10 to 15 times a day, at least. And I always see words like this: call, meeting, one-on-one. They mean nothing. What if we looked at our calendar and we thought, how can we prime with those words so that every single time someone opened their calendar, they were actually primed for how they should act and respond in that meeting or in that call? Collaborative session, strategy session, creative time, goal session, accountability hour. Every time you send a calendar invite, you're priming someone or setting them up for success. And every time you open your calendar, you're doing the same for yourself. So here's what I want us to think about. Think about how you want someone to feel before, during, and after interacting with you. And the most interesting part about this is you can use the charisma scale to shape the kind of words you use. So let's say that you're really high on the competent side, but you want to be seen as a little higher in warmth. You could use more warm words in your chats, your agendas, your emails, your invites, your LinkedIn profile. You can say friend, connect, cheers, open, together, excited, versus competence, productive, brainstorm, effective, get ready, power through, efficient, lead, knowledge. So if you want to be seen as higher in competence, you can use more competence words. If you want to be seen as higher in warmth, you can use more warm words. Let's talk about that verbal power. Nonverbal power. We already talked about the words. So before I talk about my nonverbal cue here, I want to talk about where we look when we first see someone. So when we first see someone, we tend to look at their hands first. We usually think about the eyes, mouth, or face, but our hands are our trust indicators. And that's because the brain gives a lot of weight to our hand gestures. So one thing to think about, especially on video, is the more channels you can give someone nonverbally, the easier it is for them to listen to you and to remember what you say. So if I were to give this entire presentation without my hand gestures, I would be taking away a channel from you. Worse, if I were to give my presentation with just my face, no even upper body movement, that would also take one more channel away. I want you to add channels, and your hands are one of the most important ways to do this. So above the desk, avoiding pockets if you're in person, and also thinking about adding explanation. I stumbled across this interesting pattern when I was watching TED Talks. So my team and I, we analyzed thousands of hours of TED Talks looking for patterns. And we found that when you look at the most popular TED Talks next to the least popular TED Talks, this is just with view count, you see a distinct pattern. The most popular TED speakers use an average of 465 hand gestures in 18 minutes. The least popular TED Talkers use an average of 272 gestures. Almost half. What's happening here is that not only are our hands important for trust and warmth, you can see my intention, you can see that I'm not hiding anything, they're also important for competent. Really highly competent people, they know their stuff so well that they speak to you on 2 tracks, with their words and their hands. Now, little did I know that this hand gesture research would actually get me a TED Talk of my own. You're welcome to go watch it to see a couple other interesting things about hands and gestures. But what's most important here is that when you're presenting, the best way to be charismatic is hands first. Hey, good morning, everyone. And then explaining your gestures. If something is really, really small, no big deal. You want to show that it's actually small. If something is a really big deal, you want to show that it's a big deal. Lastly here, I want you to think about visible and explanatory. If you really want to be seen higher in warmth, the more visible your hands are, the better. If you really want to be seen as higher in competence, the more gestures you use, the better. So, in summary, this is a really quick little video. To be more competent, use more competent words, empowering openers, and explanatory gestures. To be higher in warmth, use more warm words, exciting agendas, and visible hands. I want to thank you so much for watching this little video today. I love studying charismatic people. You're also welcome to read all of my tips in my book, Captivate, which has been translated into 16 languages, or check out my website. I want to thank you so much for watching today.